is a true story. Friends were sitting by the side of a busy road. An apple, an orange, and a Brussels sprout. The apple said to the orange, "Hey orange, I'll bet you $10 you can't roll across this road before that truck comes down this road and squashes you." The orange said, "Mate, you got to be kidding, I'll finish up at the Just Juice Company." But then he thinks, well, $10 is not a bad bet. "Okay, mate, you're on." So he looks left and looks right, races as fast as he can and gets to the other side. He turns back to his mate, the apple, and he says, "Hey, apple." He says, "Yep." He says, "I'll bet you $20 you can't roll across this road before that truck comes down the road and squashes you." The apple says, "You've got to be kidding, mate. I'll finish up as an apple crumble." But he's thinking $20 is not a bad bit of money. "Okay," he says, "you're on." So he looks left, looks right, and he races across the road, gets to his mate, the orange, and they pat him on the back, and they look across at their mate, the Brussels sprout, and they've gone, "Hey, Brussels sprout." And he said, "Yep." He said, "We'll bet you $40 you can't roll across this road before that truck comes down the road and squashes you." The Brussels sprout says, "Mate, turn it up. I'm only half your size. It'll take me twice as long to get across the road." But then he thinks $40 is not a bad bet. "Okay," he says, "you're on." So he starts to make his way across the road, but he's making really slow progress. And he gets about halfway, and the apple and the orange are going, "Brussels sprout, mate, turn back, you're not going to make it." And the truck starts hurtling down the road, and the Brussels sprout is just petrified in the middle of the road, and it's horrific. We can't look, he's going to be... And it's one of the most horrific accidents that I've ever seen. The apple was devastated, but fortunately, the orange had his mobile phone handy, and within seconds he dialed 000, and the ambulance was on site almost immediately. On site, he took one look, and he said to the apple and the orange, "This is the worst accident that I've ever attended." And he grabbed his little brush and shovel, and he scooped the Brussels sprout up ever so gently onto the shovel, and placed him delicately in the back of the ambulance. Ward. 3 rings on the bell and straight in. Doctors and nurses came dashing from everywhere. The doctors were yelling, "Give me FBEs, UNEs, LFTs, give me everything stat, microcultures and blood gases." It was just like a scene from ER. The Brussels sprout was rushed down to the X-ray ward, and he was given an MRI, a CAT scan, PET scan, ultrasound and nuclear medicine, and then rushed off to theatre. Meanwhile, the orange was sitting in the distressed relatives room. They decided to ring up the Brussels sprout's cousin, and he came down straight away. He was the person who won Bathurst 10 years running. The Brussels sprout's first cousin. Peter Broccoli. 15 hours later, the surgeon came out and said, "I'm looking for friends and relatives of the Brussels sprout." And they said, "That's us." And he said, "That was the worst operation I've ever had to perform in all my born days. But I've got good news and I've got bad news for you." And the apple and the orange said, "What's the good news?" And the surgeon said, "Well, as I speak, the Brussels sprout's been taken up to intensive care, and if he makes it through the night, we're expecting that he'll live." And the apple and the orange said, But what's the bad news, doctor?" And a hush came over the casualty as the doctor said, "I'm afraid he'll be a vegetable for the rest of his life."